U.S. concerns over TikTok lie in the fact its parent company is Chinese, and Chinese law requires Chinese companies to comply with any potential orders from Beijing to hand over data. Similar concerns have also been raised over other Chinese companies in recent years. Space debris has fallen to Earth before, including farmland in Australia in 2022 and through a home in Florida this past March, prompting experts to urge action.
Now, Sean, a lot of these resorts have snowmaking capabilities, so why are some of them not fully open?
Yes, so the resorts employ a variety of snowmaking equipment such as cannons and snow guns to help cover the mountains. Some, like Bowler Mountain in London, Ontario, can make snow even if it's as warm as 17 degrees Celsius. The city has been working on cleaning up the River Seine, but a sewer problem last summer canceled a pre-Olympic swimming event. Despite that, officials remain optimistic the events in the Seine will go ahead as Paris takes its latest dip into hosting the Olympics.
Now, Sean, what's the latest reaction we're seeing from world leaders?
Well, Netanyahu is blasting Tayyip Erdogan after the Turkish president compared him to Adolf Hitler. But Netanyahu says Erdogan is the last person to preach morality to Israelis. With a very active season ahead and such an intense storm to kick it off, experts say it's why people in at-risk areas should make sure they're prepared for storm season, even before hurricanes like Beryl make the news. It may not be as simple, however, for companies to just try another system or product. It may only be in one format. Cybersecurity experts say that's why companies should have backups.
Can you give us some background on what's happening there and also Canada's involvement in other programs of aid there?
Well, Canada says it is working with partners to support a peaceful end to the civil conflict, which started up in mid-April of 2023.
They become a ghost out on the street.
They're often called ghost guns, and the man arrested in the United Healthcare CEO's killing is alleged to have had one when taken into custody. But as U.S. law enforcement investigates how Luigi Mangione came to possess one, you may be wondering, what is a ghost gun and what are the laws surrounding them here in Canada? Most law enforcement and governments agree a ghost gun is a privately manufactured firearm made without an appropriate license. And police say there are some common elements to this type of weapon.
When someone privately manufactures a firearm, they circumvent all the regulations of that industry. So from materials being tracked to registered requirements to actually produce, and there's no serial number stampage on the firearm. Therefore, it's not traceable.
All of that makes the guns harder to track to their manufacturer or registered owner, unlike legally made firearms. It's also what makes them so appealing to criminals. These weapons can be made through parts a person can assemble together, sometimes even through do-it-yourself kits, or what's becoming more common, using a 3D printer and computer file that tells it how to create a firearm part, which is then combined with other parts like a barrel and gun slide.
People could 3D print that receiver portion of a firearm and then obtain the other components without a license and then assemble it, have a fully functioning firearm.
However, the need for those parts could lead to detection, which is why police say criminals are looking at other methods to avoid being found.
It's inevitable that those that are using them illegally will try to find another way to do that, to evade being investigated or arrested or subject of a prosecution.
Data provided by the RCMP to Global News shows there were just 140 ghost guns seized in 2019, with less than 200 reported in both 2020 and 2021, before it jumped to nearly 500 in 2022. That number fell slightly to 363 in 2023, but while full data for 2024 is not yet available, 220 ghost guns had already been seized as of June 30th this year. In June of last year, Quebec Provincial Police led a multi-provincial task force that conducted simultaneous raids across 8 provinces. Their targets, manufacturers of ghost guns. Those raids led to 45 arrests and seizure of 440 weapons, some of which were 3D printed firearms. That came as the federal government's firearms bill was moving through the Senate. It became law last December and included new restrictions around ghost guns. Building a firearm for personal use, like a ghost gun, is legal in the U.S., though there has been tightening of rules. Here in Canada, however, reforms last year made doing so illegal unless you hold a proper license.
If the legislation prevents even one gun from being created and put into the hands of somebody that shouldn't have it in their hands, then it's part of the solution.
Any unlawfully manufactured firearm is now prohibited to own or make, and not just the weapons themselves. Under the law, possessing or distributing computer files that could help make a ghost gun is illegal as well. And those wishing to purchase a barrel or gun slide to complete a privately made gun will now need a valid license. Police say there's been significant enforcement since its passed.
As those efforts continue, and as we continue to refine potential challenges, either in investigations or as these matters travel through the courts and there are prosecutions and convictions or non-convictions, we will then have a better understanding of what potential gaps there might be or what potential opportunities there might be.
In a statement, a spokesperson for Canada's public safety minister said the RCMP is also working with multiple police agencies, governments, and Statistics Canada to enhance national data collection related to firearms crimes, including those involving ghost guns.
Downloader and buyer beware that, we just don't want to see this trend get any worse. And we certainly want to be united collectively nationwide to ensure safety for our public.
Police forces say they're continuing to work together to track down more of these weapons, but want the public to be aware of what they are and step by step bring ghost guns out of the shadows. Sean Previl, Global News. It's been billed as a change to have the country's wealthiest pay more, but despite Ottawa saying more than 99% of Canadians won't be impacted by its capital gains tax increase, doctors are telling a different story.
We are being targeted with the same brush that is apparently being used for larger multinational corporations operating in Canada.
Dr. David Poon says many like him don't get pensions, insurance, or sick days, meaning they have to save up for retirement and family on their own. They often do so through a professional corporation, but that method means those who use one could face a tax increase on some of their capital gains. As of June 25th, individuals will see the inclusion rate rise from 50 to 67% on any annual gains realized above $250,000. Corporations like Poon's, though, face no threshold, meaning the inclusion rate will increase for all realized capital gains. Accountant Don Carson says that change for doctors could have a big impact.
Could mean that there's less money available for retirement for family doctors, which just further make it less attractive to practice in Canada.
Some politicians have also been raising concerns about what the change means for doctors and Canadians.
They're going to get hurt the most. And everyone else that builds up a business, you try to sell it, they're going to get gouged as well.
Poon calls the government's move a retroactive tax on their savings and warns it could lead to more doctors doing less work.
I cannot think of a better way to disincentivize physicians to work, to decrease productivity, and to harm our already strained healthcare system than to increase taxes on doctors who worked so hard during the pandemic on their retirement funds, on their children's education, and any sort of livelihood that they were working so hard to have. Why work?
He's now trying to rally professionals like doctors against the changes, arguing they shouldn't be lumped in with the ultra-wealthy. Sean Previl, Global News. The heat is on in parts of Europe, but with the heat can come mosquitoes, and one species is making a buzz.
Warmer temperatures and milder winters in Europe have created more favorable conditions for the survival and reproduction of Aedes albopictus.
Also known as the Asian tiger mosquito, the bug has been linked to the spread of dengue fever in Europe. Normally found in tropical and subtropical regions, scientists say dengue is spreading.
Dengue is definitely on the march.
According to the European Centre for Disease Control and Prevention, between 2010 and 2021, there were a total of 73 cases contracted locally. Last year alone, there were 130. Numbers are also growing in terms of imported cases, with 4,900 reported in 2023.
A lot of people are traveling, acquiring dengue in places where dengue is actually endemic, coming back to Europe, and then setting off a chain of local transmission for people who have no history of travel in Europe.
Dengue can be difficult to spot as the most common symptom is fever, something associated with many other illnesses.
So most of the time, it just makes people miserable for a few days. Sometimes it makes you more than miserable for more than a few days. And sometimes it gets complicated and you can have all kinds of problems with different organ systems. And yes, in rare cases, it can be fatal.
But Canadians planning a trip can take precautions. Bug repellents with DEET or clothing that covers your body like pants and long sleeve shirts can help. But scientists say, unlike with the species in Canada, don't just protect yourself at night.
So it's going to be aggressive during the day as opposed to in the evening. And so you might see slightly different mosquito behavior.
A person cannot transmit dengue to another, but can end up infecting other mosquitoes that may then spread the disease. And with a warming climate, there's concern dengue could move into Canada.
Well, it's not impossible to get dengue in Canada today, but it's becoming more possible every year for sure.
The ECDC says most outbreaks in Europe have been limited in size and the risk to travelers is very low. But people should still take precautions to avoid getting a disease that shows no signs of cooling down. Sean Previl, Global News.